Hello and welcome to episode 28 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. I'm your host, Rick Doherty, and today we will once again be joined by Sarah from Seattle. Sarah and I will be continuing our conversation from episode 27 about how to start the process of planning your next Walt Disney World vacation. In that previous episode, we went over picking a time of year to travel, picking the length of your vacation, picking the number of park days, and deciding if the park hopper option is right for you. Today, we will be talking a lot about the different resort levels and how to decide where you should be staying. We will also cover a little bit about the Disney dining plan and whether that's right for you. Just a reminder, as you think about these things, I am an authorized Disney travel planner with Ear to There Travel, helping you individually answer these questions based on your specific travel needs is literally my job. My services are always 100% free to you, and I can get you a free, no obligation quote on your next vacation by tomorrow. I've helped clients book Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, Universal Orlando Resort, Las Vegas, New York City, and Rome vacations, as well as journeys to other parts of the world. Contact me at rick@eartotheretravel.com, rick@eartotheretravel.com, or 727-507-3123, 727-507-3123. I am eager to make sure your next vacation is everything you want it to be for your family and that you get the best value for your money. Later in the episode, Jeff from the blog Magical Pursuit will share his opinions on some of the options for Epcot's Food and Wine Festival. I will also talk about some of the items I've had the chance to try since episode 25, when my wife Courtney and I went in depth talking about the festival. If you haven't listened to that one yet, please check it out after this one. Now we welcome back our good friend Sarah from Seattle. How are you doing today, Sarah?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing today?
I am doing excellent. The next decision you're going to have to make when planning a Walt Disney World vacation is one of the toughest ones for somebody who is a first-timer, and that is, what resort do I pick? The first question is, do you stay on property or off property? There are definitely benefits to staying off property, like the price. That's going to be the biggest one. But one of the things you're going to want to take into consideration if you do stay off property is you're probably going to be driving into the Disney theme parks. That's a $25 parking fee right there. Or maybe you're going to be doing an Uber. That's still going to cost you money. It's going to cost you money to get to the parks. Sometimes they will have a shuttle that goes from the off-property resort to the theme parks, but that doesn't run at the same regularity as the Disney buses or the Disney transportation, so you might be a little more limited in how often you can get back to your resort and take a midday break, or what times you're able to go to the theme parks during the day. Price versus value. It's a big part of the conversation. A lot of people love to stay on property because they like to just get over from MCO, which is Orlando International Airport, get to the Disney bubble and stay in the Disney bubble. Off property is definitely a choice, and I can discuss that with you if you're planning your trip, but we're going to focus right now on staying on property. What goes into your decision for what resort to stay at on your trips?
So when we were looking at resorts to stay at, cost is a huge factor for us, but it also was like in vicinity to the parks, like how far with the Disney transportation will we have to travel to get to each park? And also at the time it was just all adults traveling. So it was like, okay, is this more of a kid-friendly resort, or is it has more options that are kids and adults, or is it just more aimed towards adults? So we were looking at that as well of, okay, do we really want to stay at like at Art of Animation or one of those and just be like inundated with kids all day? Do we want to stay at a moderate where it's kind of a good mix of both, or do we want to fork out the extra money and stay at one of the higher end resorts? So that's definitely a huge factor when we chose to go.
As Sarah said, price is probably going to be the number one determining factor when it comes to what resorts you pick. You know your vacation budget better than anybody else knows it. So if the most expensive you can go is a value resort, is one of the all-star resorts, then do it. You're going to have a great time. You're going to love your vacation. The only issue with the all-stars, like Sarah said, there's going to be kids all over the place. These resorts cater to kids. It's not going to be super fancy. I will say the rooms are nice.
Mm-hmm.
The amenities that you're giving up to stay at a value is you're going to be dealing with more kids. You're not going to have a sit-down restaurant at the resort. The theming is very, very kid-oriented. It is not themed fancy like the Grand Floridian. You're not going to feel like you're at this fancy, fancy resort. It has a little bit of a motel vibe. I mean, it is technically a motel because the doors open to the outside. But the All-Star Resorts aren't the Motel 6 on International Drive. They are nice. You are going to have a good time. We used to go there when we would vacation when I lived in Arizona and we would come across the country. We wanted the on-property Disney perks without paying the huge, huge prices. And we were all adults who were going down, and we had a great time. Now, I'm not like particularly pretentious or anything. I think since we have moved down here and my wife has gotten to stay at some of the more expensive hotels we'll talk about later, I think she's become a little pretentious when it's come to Walt Disney World hotels. But you will have a good time. Now, the All-Stars, the only way you're getting to any of the parks is by bus. So you have to take that into consideration. And the bus system of all the transportation at Walt Disney World is the worst. You can do an Uber if you want. You can do some of these things. If you're bringing a car on property and you're staying on property, you can park at the parks for free. You do have to pay to park your car at the resort. So just some things to take into consideration. The reason the All-Stars are cheaper than any of the other resorts is the combination of them being more of a motel feel and not having the best transportation. They are literally the furthest resorts from the parks. There are two other value resorts that are a higher price than the All-Stars, and that's Pop Century and Art of Animation. Pop Century is on the Skyliner. Besides that, it's very, very similar to the All-Star Resorts, but because it's on the Disney Skyliner, you have really easy access to Disney's Hollywood Studios and to Epcot, so you're going to pay a little bit more of a premium for that. I do think the theming is better at Pop Century than it is at the All-Stars, so you might also pay a little bit more for that as well, but you're still going to be taking a bus to Magic Kingdom and to Animal Kingdom. At Art of Animation, that is right across the pond from Pop Century. It's actually a lake. It's not a pond, but it's Hourglass Lake. Art of Animation is right across Hourglass Lake from Pop Century. It can be a little bit more expensive. It can almost price out like a moderate resort because they have the suites. Now, if you're paying for the suite, you're getting a lot. You're getting a lot of space. You're getting a pretty nice room. So you're more getting a moderate type experience, but you're still getting the theming that is very kid focused. You're going to have a lot of kids running around again. You're going to have the same two parks for the bus system and the same two parks that you can get to on the Disney Skyliner. I've never stayed at Art of Animation because I don't really need the suites because I'm just married. I don't have any kids, so we can just stay in the same room. I'm sure after some days where I pushed my wife too hard in the parks, she wished that we weren't going to be in the same. Well, maybe I wish because I'm getting yelled at for pushing her too hard. But anyway, haven't stayed at Art of Animation. I have stayed at Pop Century. Even though the transportation is more convenient at Pop Century, I still think a lot of the time I would err on doing one of the All-Stars instead of Pop Century because I think a lot of the times Pop feels more crowded And I also think that you're paying a little bit more for the Disney Skyliner. You might pay a substantial amount more for the Disney Skyliner. So if that's not a huge benefit to you, you might want to save that extra money and do one of the All-Stars for a similar vibe. Now to the moderates. Because Sarah's the kind of person who likes to throw around money, she has stayed at Disney's Caribbean Beach. Before we start talking about the other moderates, just talk about your experience at Caribbean Beach.
Yeah, my family loves Caribbean Beach. The biggest reason we love it is that it's usually pretty affordable for a moderate resort. And it is comfortable, it's clean, it's huge, but it also is really central to pretty much all the parks. So no matter where you're going, minus I think is Animal Kingdom, the one that's kind of way out there. um, it's a pretty equal distance to most of the parks. So when we were there, the transportation pretty much was bus. But it's pretty much the same to get there. So you're not waiting all day to try and get to one of the resorts or not resorts, excuse me, one of the parks that's like really far away. So it's really nice. It has a sit down restaurant. It has quick service. It has multiple pools. For us, it just felt like it had the most options for a pretty good price.
Caribbean Beach is also my go-to moderate resort. Now, it is on the Skyliner now, which it wasn't the Skyliner didn't exist when Sarah was there. So that is definitely an added benefit to it. You might pay a little bit more for that feature than the other moderates, but not even really. Sometimes Caribbean Beach can still be the cheapest of the moderates or a more affordable moderate as well. It's sometimes tough to say. There are a few reasons why Caribbean Beach is my favorite moderate. One is the Skyliner. It's easy to get to Epcot. It's easy to get to Hollywood Studios. And then, like Sarah said, the buses to Magic Kingdom and to Animal Kingdom aren't awful compared to some of the other resorts. It's also right by the Riviera Resort, which is a deluxe resort. So you can walk over to the Riviera, and you can't take advantage of their amenities like the pool or some of those things, but you can go to their little coffee shop. You can walk around the resort grounds. It's almost like getting a second resort with your resort stay. Like Sarah said as well, they have a sit-down restaurant, a quick service. Both of them are pretty good. Sebastian's, which is the sit-down restaurant, people absolutely love it. The pools are fantastic. If you're going with kids, while it is not quite as much themed to kids as the All-Stars or Pop or Art of Animation, the moderate resorts still cater to families. Your kids will love the pool. And there are multiple pools at Caribbean Beach. There's a little island that has games on it. The difference in price between Pop Century and Caribbean Beach, you get a lot in that difference of price. So if you're maybe spending 1 or 2 resort days during your trip, maybe bumping up to a moderate so you enjoy those off days more might be in your best interest. Some other moderate resorts include Coronado Springs. Now, Coronado Springs recently put up Gran Destino Tower. Staying in Gran Destino Tower is a really awesome experience. If you get the chance to do that, I would suggest that it's almost like having a deluxe experience at a moderate resort. The rest of the grounds can be very spread out. It's beautiful. It's a great resort, but it can be spread out. The bus system can be a little difficult at times because of how spread out it is. The buses make multiple stops around the resort, especially during the day, in the middle of the day when they're not running as many buses. That might be an issue for you. It also doesn't have the Skyliner, so you don't have that easy access to Epcot or Hollywood Studios. You're taking the bus basically everywhere. That's similar to Port Orleans, both Riverside and French Quarter. People love these resorts. They love the amenities. They love the restaurants. It's a moderate, so it's not as expensive as the Deluxe. It has everything going for it except the location. It is kind of far away from all of the parks, So you're going to be relying on that bus transportation again. So just keep those things in mind. It's just things to keep in mind when making the decision. I think Sarah and I would both firmly say if you're thinking about going moderate, though, try Caribbean Beach. Give it a shot. Location, amenities, even price sometimes. It's the way to go, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Try them out.
Now, if you're really looking to ball here and you're like the guy from Futurama, shut up and take my money. The deluxe resorts are going to give you a lot. One of the things is location. Almost all of the deluxe resorts are within walking distance or Skyliner / monorail distance from one of the parks. If you stay at a deluxe like the Boardwalk or the Yacht and Beach Club that is right by Epcot, you can walk to Epcot. You can also walk to Hollywood Studios. If you stay at the Contemporary or the Grand Floridian or even the Polynesian, you can walk to Magic Kingdom. You can take the monorail to Magic Kingdom. There are boats that take you to Magic Kingdom. Obviously, the monorail will also take you to Epcot. A lot of these deluxe resorts, while they have better amenities, while they have great restaurants, while they have a lot of that stuff, what you're really paying for is location, location, location. Wilderness Lodge is a deluxe resort, and I feel there you are paying more for your room. You're paying for the beautiful grounds, that amazing lobby with that fireplace, great restaurants there too, like Whispering Canyon, Roaring Fork, Geyser Point, Artist Point. But there's also a boat that takes you to the Magic Kingdom. So the transportation at the deluxe resorts is a big, big part of it. It's one of the reasons I don't often recommend Animal Kingdom Lodge to a lot of people who are looking at deluxe resorts, because while it is a deluxe resort with all the amenities, and there's the Savannah View rooms, literally animals at your resort, while all that is awesome, you have to take a bus to every single park. And if you're paying deluxe prices, I just don't know if I want to be hopping on a bus every time I'm going to a theme park. So usually, unless somebody's looking to spring on one of those Savannah View rooms that is going to be an added experience to your vacation, I just don't know if the price is really worth it to stay there. I love Wilderness Lodge. If I'm going to recommend a deluxe to anybody, it's going to be Wilderness Lodge, because I think the experience at the resort is good enough to justify the price. I also think that getting to Magic Kingdom is the most important of the parks as far as transportation. It's the one where transportation can be the biggest pain in the backside. So since you have that boat that is only servicing your resort, that's a pretty big benefit. But those are the things that you're going to want to keep in mind when deciding if a resort is worth the money for you. Now, something that is coming back at Walt Disney World that isn't back yet is the Disney Dining Plan. Is the Disney Dining Plan right for you? Boy, is this a tough question to answer. This is definitely a reason to contact me, use me as your travel agent, and we can crunch the numbers, because some people just assume that the dining plan is worth it for the money, and it might not be, depending on the way they like to eat in the theme parks. There are also a lot of people who would rather pay a little bit more, get the dining plan, and just not have to worry about it. I know, Sarah, you're a huge fan of the dining plan, so why don't you tell everybody why you love it, why you choose it almost every time you go?
We actually got to experience the dining plan the first time because it was a free perk of when we were going to the parks. So the first time we didn't pay for it, it was amazing. So the reason we, and myself, why I love it so much is that I don't know, like you said before, it's coming back. We don't really know what is going to be coming, but it gave you options. Like you could do just quick service. You could do quick service and sit down meals. You could do just sit down meals. So you had a lot of options to choose from. But I love the fact that I didn't have to worry about budgeting how much money I needed per day for us to eat. We knew we got breakfast. We knew we got lunch. We knew we got dinner, and we got snacks. And that those points that they give you towards those are flexible. So if you decide, oh, I want to eat somewhere really fancy, okay, great. You'll just use more points. So maybe you decide to pay out of pocket for lunch and then go to a really nice dinner like Cinderella's Table or something like that. But it also lets you kind of hoard those snack points till the end. So we would go and just like the the Chippendale Co, whatever, or the Goofy Candy Co, and like all that. You could get tons of snacks. And the thing is, it's not a little bit of food. You get tons of food. It is a full meal every time you eat, whether it's quick service or sit down. And that was huge for us.
So I do think at some point we're probably going to do a podcast episode that is just on the Disney dining plan, and we can talk about this for a long, long time. Also, the Universal dining plan is interesting because it is different than the Disney dining plan, but they also announced that they're suspending that one. There's so much going on right now that a lot of the times I think it's safer to say we're going to come back to these topics in the future because they're changing every single day, every single week. But a couple of things I do want to point out about the Disney dining plan. When it is free, when they do free dining, if they do free dining again in the future, that is a big indicator of whether the parks are going to be crowded. Because if they're doing free dining, the parks are not going to be crowded. You want to grab that. However, it might make the parks crowded in retrospect because people grab free dining when it becomes available. Free dining is not always the best economic choice for your family. I just want to point that out because if you get free dining, you're not allowed to use any other deal. So if there is a room-only deal, if there is a deal that would make your entire package cheaper, that might actually benefit you to pay for the dining plan and take that other deal. Just one of the many things to consider when you're pricing out a Walt Disney World vacation. Free dining sounds like it has to be worth it, but maybe it's not. When you're deciding if you want to pay for the Disney dining plan, you have to take into consideration, like Sarah said, I definitely appreciate this. Sometimes you just don't want to think about it. You just don't want to worry about dropping your card down every time. I get that. I understand that. It can be so much easier to just use your points and just move on to the next thing. If you're trying to do it for the value of it, you're going to have to decide how much you eat in the parks. A lot of people don't eat enough to make it worth it. I know Marissa from Chicago, who's on the show a lot, she did it once because she really, really wanted to eat a lot of food on her trip, but she's about 4'8" and about 86 pounds, so that's an exaggeration, so Marissa, don't get angry. So she's not eating enough to make it worth the money to get the dining plan. Now, I'm 6'4" and an undisclosed amount of pounds, and it might make more sense for me to do the Disney dining plan. But you have to decide if you're going to be sitting down at those table service restaurants. If you get the table service plan, do you want to spend that much time sitting in restaurants? Going to a sit-down restaurant at Walt Disney World is going to take you like an hour and a half. If you have 2 of them in a day, that's 3 hours taken out of your day for table service restaurants. These are just things to consider when you are making these plans. This topic of conversation has already lasted 2 episodes of the show, and there's still so much more that we could discuss on this topic. It just goes to show how much you have to consider when starting to plan a Disney vacation. It's one of the reasons why earlier in the episode that we said plan far in advance, because maybe some of these questions you'll answer while you're in the planning process. You can wait and decide if you want to do the Disney dining plan. You can adjust, modify your vacation. Maybe you got the dining plan and you're like, I don't know, maybe it's not going to be worth it for me. I'm going to drop it. We haven't talked about things like Memory Maker Although we do have a past episode where Sarah and I discuss whether Memory Maker is worth it for you and some of our favorite locations to get those Memory Maker shots. So go back and listen to that episode. I think you'll really, really enjoy it. But I think this was a fun topic. It was an interesting topic, an important topic. I love talking planning Disney vacations. Sarah loves talking all things Disney. So join us again next Thursday for another episode of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Sarah, thank you so much for being on the show again and all your patience as we just yak and yak and yak and take you away from your kid and your husband. And we all appreciate the time.
No, I love being here and talking Disney and talking about other people's Disney plans. It's so much fun. So thank you so much for having me again.
And just another quick side note, later this month, Sarah and I will be at Disneyland, and this is going to turn out to be multiple episodes, multiple dining reviews. So we talk a lot about Walt Disney World here, but get ready, because if you want Disneyland content, you are going to get inundated very, very soon. And I just can't wait. This is going to be so much fun, especially because you might not know this, but Sarah and I have actually never met each other.
Only over Skype.
Yeah, we have only met each other over Skype. On Skype right now, she has a very cool Babu Frick doll that her husband had just gotten her, and that's really cool as well. So stay tuned for more episodes where Sarah and I talk about Disneyland. It is going to be such a great trip.
Yes, I'm super excited, and I can't wait to tell you guys about all the adventures that we have while we're there.
To follow along on our journey in Southern California, make sure to check out all of my social media pages, facebook.com/eartothererick, twitter.com/Rick_ear, Instagram.com/RickEar, 2 there, and twitter.com/TGTT podcast. I'm always sharing pictures, videos, blogs, and live streams that will make you feel closer to the parks. Also, contact me at rick@eartothertravel.com, rick@eartothertravel.com, or 727-507-3123, 727-507-3123, and we can start planning your next vacation. My services are always 100% free to you, and I can help you decide on the right answers to the questions we talked about today when it comes to your family's next vacation. Now it's time to welcome back our friend Jeff, who is a Walt Disney World cast member and operates the blog Magical Pursuit. Get ready to start salivating because we're going to be talking about some food. Thanks for joining me today, Jeff.
Oh, no problem. I love being here.
So back on episode 25 of the podcast, my wife Courtney and I went very in-depth on Epcot's Food and Wine Festival. Well, since then, I've had the chance to go back a number of times, and Jeff has been there as well. So we thought we would discuss some of the items I didn't get a chance to thoroughly discuss in that previous episode. So Jeff, why don't you talk about one of the things that you got the first chance you got to experience the Food and Wine Festival in 2021?
Sure. I believe that you got it as well, but the Impossible Burger was the first thing I got in my trip. When I walked in, I didn't know that the location was going to change for Earth Eats, but it just happened to be what I passed, and that I had such a good experience with it last year that I decided to kick off this year the same way with something good. The Impossible Burger slider with wasabi cream and spicy slaw.
So I had decided I was going to wait a little bit because I have had this the past few years at Food and Wine Festival, but I wasn't able to wait all that long, and I have gotten it again this year, and I'm glad that they did not deviate from the formula. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the Impossible Burger sliders at Earth Eats definitely ain't broke. I would suggest getting this, even if you are a meat eater, like Jeff is not a vegetarian. It tastes like a burger slider. And the wasabi cream, I think that is the all-star here. That's what makes this one of the best dishes in all of Food and Wine.
I would agree. It's just a good burger. It doesn't. I mean, if you take out that whole plant-based element of it, it's a good burger. I'm a burger fan. I like getting burgers. I get them a lot of places I go to, and it's very good. It's delicious. It's also not just a plain old burger. It's a weird take on it because of the wasabi and the slaw. It's interesting to your mouth while still tasting like a regular burger.
And I know maybe we kind of skipped explaining this, but Impossible Meat is actually a plant-based meat-like product. Disney has developed a deal with Impossible, so now in the parks, if you're getting a plant-based meat, it is probably going to be Impossible, but they really nailed it at Earth Eats. It's been around for a few years now. I know I have been having this particular slider for a number of years at Food and Wine, and they're not changing the formula, and I am so appreciative of that, because sometimes you can tamper with things and make them worse. Just keep this one rolling in the right direction. Another one that you really loved last year and you had to do it right away. Why don't you tell everyone about that?
The s'mores whoopie pie lawn at Flavors from Fire. Flavors from Fire was a booth that opened up like halfway through the season last time. I had no idea what it was. Walked over there and they have this as the listing: smoked chocolate cake, graham cracker, marshmallow, chocolate ganache, and candied bacon. And I thought, I'll give it a shot. I do enjoy whoopie pies. I do like s'mores. Let's try it. And it was, well, for one, it was an incredible flavor combination, taste. And the one thing I was telling Rick about it, it's not a regular s'more, because s'mores fall apart and are just an absolute mess. They have this graham cracker that is almost like a cookie or a cake, where you can cut it and it just holds its shape as you eat this thing with a fork. The structure stays, so you get the whole sandwich, the whole flavor presentation with every bite. It's my favorite snack thus far that I've had. Flavors from Fire, hosted by the NFL on ESPN.
Synergy. Yeah, this is actually in between Test Track and where you would go to enter World Showcase. It's in a difficult location. You would definitely miss it if you're not intentionally trying to find it. But especially if you like meat and you want to try this sweet dessert Jeff is mentioning here, it's worth making sure you do find it. Now into World Showcase, where Jeff and I together got the chance to go to Germany. I tried the apple strudel with vanilla sauce. I've had this in previous years, so I wasn't in a rush to get it, but I got it this time. I thought it was really good. It's your basic apple strudel with vanilla sauce. I know I'm from Pennsylvania, and the Pennsylvania Dutch culture that is very German. I think that a lot of these German dishes are maybe more common than they are to a lot of our listeners, but it's an apple strudel. It's good. It's not going to blow you away with how good it is, but if you're walking around World Showcase and you want something nice and sweet that isn't overpoweringly sweet, try this one. What did you get at the Germany Pavilion, Jeffrey?
I got the very easy to pronounce Schinkennudeln, which is a pasta gratin with ham, onions, and cheese. It was good. It's what you're kind of expecting out of a potato pasta type casserole dish. Very dense, quite a big portion size compared to price. It was hefty and it stays with you for a while. I got this because I'm addicted to cherry flavored things. The Schafferhofer Wild Cherry Hefeweizen. Hefeweizen is a wheat beer, so in comparison to a lot of other beers, it is very light. It is very, I would use the word delicate in comparison to, your harsher, thicker, meatier beers. It's very light. And this one has wild cherry flavoring, and it was like a bright pink red color in comparison to your typical tannish beers. It was very good. Of the two, if I was to pick, I would take the beer over the gratin, but neither were bad. I would take the beer over the other one, though.
Awesome. When I was not with Jeff, I had a chance to stop by Refreshment Outpost, and get the spicy githeri, I believe, with white beans, pigeon peas, Ben's original quinoa, and ancient grains medley, and kachumbari slaw. I'm going to go with that. Okay? Sure. We'll go with that. This was great. I loved it. It was spicy without being too spicy. It was a little bit hefty, but you're walking around a theme park. It's not going to weigh you down, but it is going to provide you with something substantial. If you're just getting the desserts at all these other booths, this would be a nice one to reset the palate a little bit and get some of that sugar high to come down just a little so you can enjoy some more of your theme park day. This is at Refreshment Outpost, which is in between the Germany Pavilion and the China Pavilion. Next, we're going to talk about a controversial addition to the festival, and that's the Rotunda Bistro at the American Adventure. A lot of people were a little upset that they set up some tables inside the American Adventure to turn it into a food and wine booth. I'm going to say that I firmly believe that this was a great idea. The air conditioning is good. Normally, this area is set up for the Voices of Liberty, but right now the Voices of Liberty are performing outside. So since they weren't using this space, I kind of appreciate that they are doing this, giving you a chance to get out of the heat and enjoy some food and wine food. But at the Rotunda Bistro, the wild mushroom and truffle tart. I had this a previous time I was there before meeting up with Jeff, and I said, you have to get this. It's great. I could not believe how much I liked this. You hear wild mushroom and truffle tart, and it kind of makes you think, how is this going to taste? But when you get it, it's really good. The mushrooms almost give it like a steak feel. It's meaty even though it's not meat. It's just really, really good. The cream is good. I want to hear what you thought about it, Jeff.
Much the same as you. It sounded weird, and I'm not a person to shy away from weird sounding eating things. Like, I mean, if you say a food and it sounds weird and you say, try this, I've had it, I liked it, I'm more than willing to try it. To me, it reminded me of a toaster strudel that had meat inside of it. It was a very flaky, like really delightful crust. I enjoyed the everything about it. The way it felt in your mouth, the way it tasted meaty, but it wasn't meat. It just messed with you a little bit. We got to watch the person kind of assemble it. It was fascinating to watch. It wasn't just a lot of the food and wine stuff is already done. You walk up and they hand it to you. Well, this one wasn't. I don't know what they were doing, but it wasn't pre-assembled. So we got to watch them kind of plate everything. It was just an all around great experience. And to the point about being in the Rotunda, I mean, 50 degrees colder than outside. It was fantastic. And it makes sense to, if you're going to have an open space, put tables in there because you kind of still want people to be away from other people at this point in time, especially in Florida.
Agreed on all those points. The last one we are going to talk about today is Tangerine Cafe Flavors of the Medina, which is at the Morocco Pavilion. Tangerine Cafe was a quick service dining location in the Morocco Pavilion that briefly reopened with the parks when the parks reopened, but then shut down again shortly after that, and now they're using it as a food and wine booth. And I've gotten a few things here now already, and I like them all. So I know you got the fried falafel pita with tahini sauce when we were together. This is 100% plant-based. I got it a separate time. What did you think?
I had no idea what falafel was. I'd heard about it, but I've never had it before in my life. I thought it was a meat item. I know pitas usually have meat items inside with like fancy sauces, so I thought that was what this was going to be. And it was, you informed me of this, but it was still fantastic. I enjoyed it. It's one of those that I enjoyed it, but I probably wouldn't get it again. I would try something different. It didn't blow me away. It was good, but I also had the fresh blood orange juice, and I would absolutely get that again. It was delicious. I've had blood oranges before. I've had blood orange things before. I've never had blood orange juice, and I thought it was delicious.
The time I had gotten the fried falafel pita, I felt that it was a little burnt. Now, I got it the first day of the festival, and I got it right before the fireworks. So they were slammed all day. It was the end of a very, very long day. I'm not sure I got the best fried falafel pita that they had to offer throughout the course of the festival. But the time I was there with Jeff, I got the stone-baked Moroccan bread with hummus, zalouk, and xiong dips. Sure, that sounds about right. This was really good. The only issue I might have had with it is if you do get this, make sure you divide your bread up very, very sparsely, because if you use a lot of bread each dip, you're going to end up with a lot of sauce left over at the end of it. So just keep that in mind. The bread to sauce ratio needs to be considered when you're enjoying this meal. And I got the pistachio cake with cinnamon pastry cream and candied walnuts. Just awesome. There's really nothing else to say about this. A lot of Disney desserts, even in these festivals, can be way, way too sweet. It can almost be like that pixie stick sugar instead of natural sugar, or even just getting the sweetness from fruits or things like that. This is sweet, but not at all over sweet. Really good. It's beautiful. It's very Instagrammable if you are into that kind of thing. I definitely think the pistachio cake is something that I would try. So the Food and Wine Festival lasting until November 20th at Epcot, about a week before they start the Festival of the Holidays, we all assume at least. And I'll tell you what, I'm excited to continue trying things week after week. And then on October 1st, a whole bunch of new food and wine booths will be opening.
Yeah, we got Ireland, Brazil, Belgium, Spain, the Alps, Kenya, India, Lobster Landing, and my personal favorite, Mac and Eats.
The plant-based mac and cheese, the warm chocolate pudding cake in Ireland, and the Brazilian cheese bread. Those are 3 items you're going to have to try after October 1st. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us again. Please tell everyone how they can find your blog.
Excellent. So I am a current Disney cast member, and in the effort to try to be the best cast member I can, my goal while I was here was to do everything, ride every attraction, go to every restaurant, try every booth at the Food and Wine Fest, all these types of things. You can find them. I'm making a blog, magicalpursuit.com.
This has been episode 28 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Every Thursday, I will have a brand new episode for you. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share this show with your friends, and most importantly, have a great week.